I haven't. He has. Welcome to America's Healthiest City on ESPN Richmond. I'm your host, Will Melton, and I'm excited to bring this show to you along with our guests. America's Healthiest City is an initiative to make Richmond the healthiest city in America in 10 years. It is an impossible feat for one man, but it is more than possible if we all work together. On today's show, what is exactly America's Healthiest City and how will it work? Meet two of the initiative's early ambassadors, Diana Boxey, Global Director of Marketing of AMF Bakery Systems, and Deb Lawrence, Director of Rework Richmond, and find out how you can get involved and contribute in your own unique way. So first off, I want to welcome our guests, Diana Boxey and Deb Lawrence. I've had the pleasure of working with both of you in a professional capacity over the years, but I want our guests to meet you and, meet the people who are ultimately going to make this initiative possible. So Diana, I will start with you. Tell the audience a little bit about your role and who you work for.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name's Diana Boxey. I work for AMF Bakery Systems. I'm the global marketing director there. I've been there for a little over 10 years. Been fortunate enough to see our organization grow and our focus on sustainability increase. Specifically over the last year or two, we've really had a big push on how, we see our vision for sustainability moving forward, and not just Richmond, but around the world.
So tell us a little bit about what AMF Bakery Systems does in the world, because you guys do have a world presence.
We do. We have multiple locations around the globe, but our headquarters is here in Richmond. So we are the baking partner of choice for commercial bakeries worldwide. We design, develop, engineer best-in-class unit equipment and complete system solutions that automate the production of a variety of baked goods. So everything from soft bread and buns to artisan breads, pizza, flatbreads, cakes, pies, pastries, you name it. And our goal is to help bakers develop more sustainable production solutions so that we can deliver safer, more affordable, more accessible food to communities and families around the world.
Right. Well, you guys are real innovators, and we'll have a chance to talk about what some of those things are here in a little bit. But I want to bring Deb into the conversation from Rework Richmond. It's an emerging name in the community. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
Yeah, I'm Deb Lawrence, Executive Director of Rework Richmond. We are a relatively new nonprofit. We just finished up our 4th year of existence, and we are focused primarily in the east end of the city, working with adults who are underemployed, seeking living wage, family sustaining careers. We were created in 2018, actually as a response to a call in the community for real meaningful employment, not just jobs, but real careers that could move folks who are living in poverty, but yet underemployed. They're working. So they're working, but they're still living in poverty, just barely making ends meet. And those are the folks who really fall through the cracks and get lost in our government system. So we work with those folks to try to place them in careers. We surround them with education, skills training, financial coaching, resume writing, things that they need to address barriers that they face that's been keeping them from being sustainably employed with a lasting career.
Well, I will selfishly plug something that I'd love to talk to you about more, a project from Exponent 21 called richmondhires.com, which I think would be a great partnership for Rework, and more to come on that because it's still in its infancy, but I'm excited to talk more about what we could do together.
Yeah, I'd love to.
So as ambassadors to America's Healthiest City, you both agreed to put your strategic decisions through the filter, or how does this make our community healthier? What impact do you think that filter will have on your organization, and what impact do you think it'll have on the larger community? I'll start with you, Deb.
Yeah, I think as you've said and pointed out with America's Healthiest Cities, health is more than just a physical well-being. And what we're looking at Rework and being an ambassador with America's Healthiest City is how that all can be kind of a multiplier effect in the community, how it's so important that people have a good workforce development program, accessibility to wage equality. And so all of those pieces come together in the community. What we're seeing with Rework, and as we put what we do through the filter, and how can this benefit and make us healthier, is when the community starts to rally around partners and see that as far as we're concerned, what we do, oh my gosh, I can get in my own vehicle, go to one job today, be home in time to do homework with the kids. What that does is a multiply effect to people in the community. They start to see it and they want to be a part of it. And that brings everybody together in a much healthier way. And, that, like I said, doesn't speak to physical well-being, but all the pieces that you need to bring the community together and be proud of it.
It's like a fabric instead of a bunch of little blankets.
Exactly. Stop
thank you.
working in silos, but start, pulling all these pieces
Yeah.
together.
Well, hopefully through this show, I'll be able to highlight more of those community partnerships, because I'm seeing it across the board. And I know that there are partners to this show, a Chamber RVA for one, and many other leaders in the community that are working really hard on things like housing and other really fundamental things to do with health. For AMF Bakery Systems, how do you guys see your partnership with America's Healthiest City changing how you think, and how do you see that impacting the greater Richmond community?
Yeah, so as part of our internal sustainability vision, I said we're a global organization, so we've got multiple, cultures and people and, diverse thought that's going into how we've shaped our sustainability vision. And we've actually got an internal board where people can submit ideas. And then we have, our leadership team will evaluate and figure out how to implement those ideas within our own organization. But I think for our Richmond team specifically, to be able to take those ideas and see how they can help shape their community, it's not just leveraging our own learnings from our Richmond team, but it's taking these worldwide contributions of a much larger scope and being able to drive change within our community.
That's bigger than I had been thinking about for you specifically, but that's really impressive. And I've seen some of the work that you've done so far as an ambassador to introduce the idea to your team. So I'm grateful for that. I haven't really said this yet, but America's Healthiest City is a website. It's an idea. It's not a nonprofit. For those of you who are listening, it's an idea. It's an initiative that is being spearheaded by Exponent 21, my company, but it's a website that we built to give as a gift to the community to create this space and to create the collaborative effort that is America's Healthiest City. So the first thing you'll see if you go to americashealthiestcity.com is an ideas board. And anybody in the community can submit ideas to the ideas board. And there's an opportunity for people to click into them, read a little bit more about the idea and the author, and comment on those and say, hey, this is something that this organization is doing, or this is something that I'm interested in getting involved with. And you can, click on the like counter to kind of show people where there's an interest. So I wanted to share a couple of the ideas that we have on the site now. And I want to give an opportunity to inject some new ideas into this because, again, the strong belief here is that, if we work together, we can do it. If we're all trying to do this individually, it's probably not going to happen. It's going to be hard anyway. But small things can make a big difference. And one of the ones that was submitted to the site early on, and I won't say who the author is, but the idea that we could paint healthy fruits and vegetables and other foods on prominent walls in Richmond, with also labels that are prominent so that people can learn something. I'm amazed when I go to the grocery store at the things that I don't look at because I don't recognize them. And then I'm amazed when somebody says something like, hey, rutabaga. And I'm like, I don't even know what that looks like, and there's all this stuff. There's so much stuff. And for me personally, this idea, America's Healthiest City, came out of Leadership Metro Richmond and just a general frustration in order to solve food, which was my immersion topic in Quest, is you have to solve all these other problems. And that was just too much for me. But one of the things that I think it was somebody from Shalom Farm says that there's this cultural appropriation that is also a component to the bigger picture, and allowing people to learn and allowing people to absorb information that can help them in their own pursuit as individuals is what this idea is based on. So I want to open up the floor to either of you to share any ideas that you have. Because again, I really strongly believe that it's going to be up to all of us to move the needle. And I don't think that it needs to be any major initiatives necessarily. I think there are going to be some that probably emerge And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the parts of America's Healthiest City, but any ideas that you brought to the table today?
So one thing we've done at AMF is we've adopted a street basically. So we're located on Laburnum Avenue, and each year we organize an Earth Day event. So in April, on Earth Day, we talk about a few different things that we could do. This year we planted some garden beds so that our teammates can come and they can contribute, they can grow what they want to grow and then take home any of the foods that grow from that. But another part of our Earth Day event was we did a street cleanup. And so we went down to Laburnum, we had a bunch of volunteers internally clean up the street, just picking up trash and figuring out what could be recycled. But we learned from that you can actually adopt a street, and that's just your commitment to do ongoing cleanup initiatives throughout the year. So that's our little slice of the neighborhood that we're contributing to, and there's no reason that other organizations couldn't do similar cleanup efforts within their location.
Well, and the city just did some work down there to kind of clean up the infrastructure and renew things. So
Yeah.
I happen to drive through that area all the time. I always wave at you when I drive by, but it's beautiful over there.
Yeah, it's looking really nice. I mean, the landscaping has made it, top notch, but there's so much change going on and a lot growing up within that area.
So one of the other ideas that was submitted to this site is similarly sort of rooted in the idea that we have a lot to learn as individuals to kind of bridge the gap. And this one's really based on I can't remember what the foundation of it was, but a lot of the foods that we eat at home are foods that the youngest in our family want to eat. And obviously that for the young ones becomes like chicken tenders and French fries or something like that. But as kids age and they learn about food, they introduce it. So one of the ideas is a health ambassadors program that would enable young kids in school to take special classes about nutrition and cooking and food and just exercise, things like that. But they would get a little ID card. They would get to shake the mayor's hand. It's a mayoral health ambassador program. And they take what they learn and go home and say, Mom, I want to eat this. I can't remember exactly where this came from, but there is a heavy influence in what is actually eaten in households. And there's a documentary about it that I watched many years ago that had more to do with the obesity epidemic, and it was called Fed Up, and Katie Couric produced it, or co-produced it, and it followed several families, and it looked at their behaviors and habits and things like that. Now, we talk here about, less about sort of, I don't say physical well-being isn't important, but recognizing that there's this bigger component, and it's this connectedness to the world and this belief that the future is bright. I think that might be something that we're all kind of struggling to get back to after having a couple of years of pandemic. And so I welcome any other ideas, but I also, I think I fear that others out there might be saying, well, this is too big, or this might be a real challenge. And so I'm curious, as the both of you kind of thought through this and talked to your teams about it, what were some of those reservations or concerns that came up, and what ultimately was it that caused you to say, what, it's worth it to try this anyway?
I think within our organization, when we initially started asking people for ideas towards creating more sustainable, equitable organization, it was what's too small. And so thinking like, oh, well, we could change what's in the vending machine, and that will change, what people are able to access on a daily basis at work. But ideas like that maybe just were, it was just oversight, the person in that facility's role or whatever maybe hadn't thought about that being a contributing factor towards our sustainability initiative. So I think just thinking that anything is too small, it's not, because, it might shoot into another idea that somebody else kind of tags on to, and it becomes much bigger than what you initially thought.
Yeah. And I think overall, especially for us at Rework, we are small. We're a very small organization by design, so that we can, go a little bit deeper and work on issues. And for us, it's workforce development. But I think nothing is too small. I think we've got to start at the beginning and make changes slowly and bring it around. I mean, if everything can seem so daunting, if you think, oh my gosh, if we're not going to make these huge strides in 6 months or a year or 5 years, then we'll never make any progress with anything. So for us, that's what we are all about. It's in our DNA to be small and affect change one person, one family at a time. And before you know it, if you keep your head down and you do the work and you do it the right way and for the right reasons, I think you're going to see some huge global change. We all can come together and agree with that. Just don't get out ahead of your skis, as one of our staff members says all the time. Let's just take this and figure out what we're going to do, and let's attack it and go at it. And baby steps are good, and we'll make these changes happen one person, one family, one idea at a time.
I love that. I love that. I feel like when you take it to that granular of a level, all of a sudden, if you're putting those sorts of tactical decisions through the filter, they become strategic decisions. It's not, what goes in the vending machine seems like such a tactical decision, but the outcome on the other end is impactful.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about accomplishments and initiatives within your organizations respectively. And so Deb, I'll talk a little bit about workforce development and what you guys are doing. So can you share maybe a couple of stories that might orient the listener around the impact that you guys have had, or do you have any specific cases that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're doing and what so many other folks in this field are doing is hard work. And it does take time. What we're doing is slow. It's a long walk, as we call it. That's the expression that we use. What we're doing is a long walk. It's not a race. But we are seeing, and we have many of our participants whom actually call members, who have reached that living wage career that's sustaining their families, which is just huge. And we are seeing that multiplier effect, where their friends and their neighbors are wanting to be like the friend and neighbor that they see. We have members who have been with us for a couple of years, who are now moving out of certain housing situations that weren't ideal for them into home ownership, which is not workforce development, but because of the workforce development piece, they're able to do that and make, again, a much healthier family and healthier lifestyle for themselves. We are really, really proud of those members and those folks that have done that. And once you're a Rework member, you're always a member. So we stay with their folks and make sure how they're doing on the job. Is it time to look at owning a home, meeting with their financial coach? So we're seeing a lot of success with our members in the areas of not only employment and income, but education, housing, transportation, childcare, which all of those pieces, you've talked about it in a lot of the documents you've written about healthy cities. All of those pieces have to come together to achieve the same goal. So we feel very blessed that, we've only been around for 4 years, but we have some really good stories with our members. We have some really good data and metrics to show how everybody's moving forward and just becoming stable and thriving, just becoming very stable and thriving in the community. There's some stories. I won't get into specific, but we're very proud of what folks do.
Well, it sounds like you're working to build generational wealth, and if you could measure it, there are probably some measurable mental and physical health impacts as well for your families.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you guys are doing some innovative things. I don't know if I won't say anything specifically, but I'll let you kind of talk about some of the exciting things that you guys are doing to be out on front and be a leader.
Yeah. I mean, as a leader in innovation, of course, we're focused on green product innovation and then continuous improvement of our processes and product lifecycle analysis, that type of thing, as it relates to our engineering efforts. But a big aspect of our vision for better food, better lives is that we have a duty to teach and mentor the workforce of tomorrow. And that's really the key pillar under our social engagement initiative, is how are we partnering with STEM programs and different technical universities to develop, not just the future generations, but who's going to come into AMF and help. So we're working a lot with different internship programs and just cultivating tomorrow's leaders.
Wonderful. Well, before we run out of time, I want to give the listeners an opportunity to find out where to reach each of you. So Deb, can you share where people can find about you and your organization?
Yeah, we have a website, www.reworkrichmond.org. We are located in the East End, in the heart of the East End, on the corner of Fairmount Avenue and 22nd Street.
Dana?
Yep, you can go to amfbakery.com. We've got a full page on sustainability that talks about these initiatives in greater depth, as well as, our involvement with America's Healthiest City.
Thank you. Thank you. And on the way out, I just wanted to invite listeners to go to americashealthiestcity.com to check out the ideas that have been submitted on the website, to submit your own ideas, to sign up to be an ambassador if you are a brand, a government agency, a nonprofit, or an academic institution. What we'll talk about a little bit more in future shows is the need for collaboration, not just amongst individuals, but the need to also collaborate across those 4 different institutions in the community. And we'll talk about the foundations of America's Healthiest City, which comes from largely the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum. So I welcome you all back next week, 6 a.m. on ESPN Richmond Thursdays.